all the all of the knowledge. I will yield to the Grand Sheik so he can open us up in prayer.
Islam.
So,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Father of the universe,
the Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is the protectress,
my guide,
my God,
and my salvation,
and my salvation.
by night
By night
and by day.
and
and
by
by day,
Through his holy prophet,
through a holy prophet,
through Ali.
to Ali.
through Ali.
Amen.
Ashe.
Islam. We'll go back to a brother. Saruch El. Islam.
Salvation, Allah, unity, Moorish Science Temple of America, divine constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America are empowered to make and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended onto his Father God, Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of Moorish Science Temple of America. No member, no members is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government because by being Moorish American, you are part and partial of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. No organization of Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their divine creed that they may know they are part and partial of this said government and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the governments in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and partial of all uplifting acts of Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish Science Temple of America, and then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American Prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The questionnaire and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand Sheiks and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon any members, let it be finance or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause support of any group of members. Any formal officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet and the Grand Sheik. Act 2. All members are to attend their adept meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we're to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must conform himself to the questionnaire and let every member exercise the 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and divine creed, that they may know they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they're not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings to become a part and partial to all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet Drew Ali through the guidance of his father God Allah. Islam.
Islam.
And to open the meeting with an instruction from our Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Holy instruction from the prophet. Sincerity. The tongue of the sincere is rooted in heart. Hypocrisy and deceit have no place in his words. Islam. And I will yield to the Grand Sheik Paige Bey to continue with today's Wednesday instruction. Islam.
Islam, Moors, Muslims, Moorish Americans, Asiatics, all sympathizers, I rise, giving all praise to Allah, the author, the creator, the father of the universe. We give highest honors to our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, the last prophet in these days and times. Peace be upon him. We give high honors to our forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, for inciting that thought of nationality in the instance that we are somebody. We are a people. We can do something if we come together. And then, the prophet came up right behind him and knocked it out of the park and told us what that nationality truly is. So honors to him, honors to all the divinely led prophets, honors to our Grand Major Temple, honors to our Supreme Grand Sheik. If any of you have heard, he needs our salahs right now. He needs our support and our positive vibrations of mind. He was having a little bit of medical trouble. So keep him in your thoughts and your prayers. We give Honors to all his official staff. We give honors to all of you here. Give honors to our national grand spokesman. For organizing this, and all of his staff, everybody who is in the Moorish affairs, the works, and those who want to be here. Some people want to be here, but they just can't be here. So honors to them for keeping us in thought. And honors to the Moorish base. Honors to everything Moorish forevermore. Islam. So tonight, I know I'm not the usual face, but duty calls, and it was an extreme honor to come and fill in some big shoes, that my feet don't necessarily fit, but at the same time, honors to the brother for thinking of me and saying, "Hey, brother, would you mind doing this?" And of course, this is what I live for. This is, my brother on here, our brother Sarushel, he had said something earlier, and I hope we can all kind of resonate on it. I was talking to him, and he was saying, when I found out who we are, and that the Moorish Science Temple was the way, and that our prophet had instructed us into this movement this way, he's like, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. He's like, this became my life. This, what else what's more important than prioritizing the uplifting of fallen humanity? What is more important than the priority of your salvation? We literally were brought our salvation. Here it is, and here we are coming together, unifying with our fellow Asiatics, Muslims, and then that really resonated with me, because it's like, what more important could we be doing right now? What's priority over this? So honors to you all for attending your meeting and putting your best foot forward to do what is necessary in this great work, and that's just showing up. A lot of times it's just showing up because you show up, you're going to be in the midst of the Muslims. You're going to be forming in that flesh, in that holy breath, forming in the temple, and carrying out our prophet's law, because you're just going to be there. You're going to be at the right place at the right time. Half of the things in the universe is usually about timing. It really has nothing to do with sometimes your particular talent or skills. Like they said, we always say, I play a lot of like pickup basketball. And sometimes a funny shot will fall in. And they say, "Hey, it's better to be lucky than talented." But us as Muslims, we know it's better to have the grace of Allah upon us than to rely on our so-called best assets of self. And if you utilize these lessons that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave to us to exemplify our character and who we really are, you will find yourself at that right place at that right time. So we give just praise once again and honors for all you being here in attendance. We're going to go over chapter 45 tonight. Wonderful chapter. Please, as a reminder for all who are here, chime in. This is a time for us to express our thought, for us to express our understandings as they come to us. If somebody has the floor, please let them express their thought, and then when it's your opportunity, we'll get you in there. I haven't worked with this platform, so hopefully it should show me the hands, and I should be able to see how things go. But it's like Moors do. We'll figure it out as we go along. So just bear with us as I'm learning this new system. But chapter 45,
Islam. Grand Sheik, I'm just asking, because I'm not very good at Roman numerals, but do you know which number page that would be?
Okay, in our Quran, it's
or what's the title?
Islam, the divine origin of the Asiatic nations.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Islam. Yeah. XL5. Yeah, them Roman numerals, they'll get you. They'll get you. The divine origin of the Asiatic nations. The fallen nations, the fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Koran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nation. The Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. The Egyptians, who were the Hamtites and of a direct descendant of Mizraim. The Arabians, the seed of Hagar, Japanese, and Chinese. The Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Hittites, and Moabites from the land of Canaan. The Asiatic nations and countries in North, South, and Central America. The Moorish Americans and Mexicans in North America, Brazilians, Argentinians, and Chileans in South America. Colombians, Nicaraguans, and the natives of San Salvador in Central America, etc. All of these are Muslims. The Turks are the true descendants of Hagar, who are the chief protectors of the Islamic creed of Mecca, beginning from Muhammad I, the founder of the uniting of Islam, by the command of the great universal God, Allah. Islam. So, the divine origin of the Asiatic nations. That title, the Asiatic, that used to, at the beginning, in the inception of this knowledge, coming into knowledge of self, the Asiatic was one of the first things that I had to adjust to understand. How are we Asians? What are they saying when they say the Asiatic? Are they saying that at the time, so-called Black people, we're the real Asians? Like, what are we really getting into here? That was a head scratcher at the beginning. And then we know that even going back into our brother man, the forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, he used to use that a lot, the Asiatic. And it's interesting, that term Asiatic, because we can look at it from a few different ways. The Asiatic nations, many of us may or may not allude to the understandings of Yehudian thought, or what we call Jew, in this day and age, the Hebrew, right? What I have come to find out about that Asiatic, and more or less what makes us the Asiatic, is because the word Asia, it comes from a Hebrew word. The Hebrew word is Asaya, and Asaya references the world of action. This was a Hebrew word that was used to mean more or less the world, the material manifest, the actual soil that we put our feet on day in, day out. And so then that had me thinking, okay, the world of action, Asia. And then when I was looking back into some of the annals of history and getting some of the understandings of the land, the world of action, the world of matter, we understood that some have called this land or the earth Pangea, but in many annals, it was just known as Asia, even to the point where some of you may know that they used to call Africa Asia Minor. All right. So now we're looking like, all right, so we're Asiatics because we were the first in the world of action. That fall of man, chapter 1. It's very, very imperative that we read that and really break it down and see how that whole thing happened, right? In chapter 1 of the Moorish Holy Koran, it goes into how we were one with Allah and how we fell into the plane of soul, right? There was a progression to the fall. And then the vibrations, the ethers, they began to vibrate even slower still. And then we came into this manifest of flesh, that world of action. There's a good book, right? And I'm gonna tie this up together. There's a good book called The Message of Aquaria. The Message of Aquaria. It was written in like the 1910s. I want to say about 1917 by what they call the Christian mystics. And I was reading through it, and they had a very interesting take, but it made a lot of sense in the correlation to the Asiatic nations being the first peoples. And it talked about how there was a time, right, in that transition of the fall, that we were in this plane of manifest, like thought. We were more or less like the wind that breezes by the trees, and we haven't fully settled into this plane of manifest. And I said, oh, this sounds very, very, very familiar, as the vibration of the ether started to go even slower still. And then it talks about how in between this time period that we slowly started to form in this material manifest, congeal in this material manifest. I'm not trying to necessarily go too far into that whole thing, but I'll give you kind of a key. When you see something like who's familiar with like the Baphomet, you ever seen that? Now many have said, oh well, you know, that's like a devil's depiction or something like that. But if you look at that, if you ever looked at that Baphomet picture or whatever, on his arm he has the word coagulate, right? Coagulate on the one that's facing down. On the other one he has dissolve or solve, right? And he's pointing up with dissolve as in going higher, more subtle. And then coagulation obviously is the congealment of a thing. So I always thought that was very interesting, because they talk about in this book how we went from a plane of mind all into a actual coagulation in the flesh, right? And so one of the keys of this chapter 45, when I had to put all this together, it said the divine origin, kind of going into a situation of what we're talking about in chapter 1. Obviously, we're going to have a way of manifesting that's not going to be maybe typical, because you started off as a spirit and a part of Allah. So I'll always emphasize that point when I deal with the Asiatic, because many of us go, what is an Asiatic? It's the denotation that you were the first on this plane. You were the first on this earth. As far as that, does anybody have anything that they would like to add? Anything that they would like to add to the Asiatic and that whole thing? And we want to touch on some instructions or whatever you want to express. Islam. Oh, we got our brother right here. Islam, brother, you have the floor, my brother.
Islam, praise Allah, and to his prophet. Just had a question for you, Grand Sheik.
Islam.
Is it fair to say, with that understanding, that all the so-called black people in America are actually Asiatics? That's just a question. I yield.
Is it fair to say that all the so-called black people in America are Asiatics? Islam. Yes. Islam. Even when we look into when we deal with chapter 47, and he talks about the dominion of Africa, and he talks about how old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan, right? And his father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, right? And he goes into all that. But in instruction 5, he says, in later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. So yes, Ham and Cush dispensated, and then obviously more Asiatics, because if they were brothers to Ham and Cush, or Ham and Cush were brothers to those ones in Asia, then we're talking about divine origins, right? Of the Asiatic nations. And so Obviously, they have come from the same lineage. And these holy lands, right? If you're thinking about what the holy lands are, let's kind of think about it in the sense of what our questionnaire may be saying, right? At what place on earth was the physical part of man formed? It's going back into that coagulation in the Garden of Eden, right? 53, key 53, it says, where's the Garden of Eden? In the land of Canaan, in the city of Mecca. All right, Islam. So 54, what is the modern name for the Garden of Eden? Mecca. All right. So I want you to resonate on that because remember, there are ones guarding the holy city of Mecca to keep the unbelievers away. Where do unbelievers hang out? The unbelief is in the mind. All right. So Islam, yes, the Americans or the so-called blacks would be of those Asiatic nations, so on and so forth. Islam, I yield, but please, does anybody have any take? Did anybody, have a different interpretation of being Asiatic and so forth and so on, or any of those things? Islam, brother Ricardo, you have the floor. Islam, more.
Islam, Grand Sheik. Praise Allah, honors to the Prophet. I just wanted to add on that and just note that the term Asiatic, for those tuning in, it's not a made-up term. I actually have old film, and I'm assuming it was commonly used in the early 1900s, where the term European and Asiatic was actually used in a film. Where a European gentleman, they were strategizing and getting ready to go to war, and they referenced their group as the European group, and then our people as the Asiatic nations. So I just wanted to add that point, and I actually have the footage. I'll drop it in the group chat for those who would like to hear that and see that. Islam, ayyub.
Islam, gratitude. That would be excellent to see and understand. And to the brother's point, it definitely was one of those things that they just knew or that we were associated with back in those times of the Prophet, and Marcus Garvey, 1910s and all that kind of stuff. There was no problem. When they said Asiatic, they knew specifically who we were talking about. Now, Islam, does anybody have anything to add to the Asiatic word or designation? Because I wanted to share something that is in this old dictionary I have. Islam, please, Sister Sultanate, go ahead.
This is Brother Simmons Bey. How you doing, brother?
Oh, Brother Simmons Bey. My apologies. Islam, brother.
All is truly well. Islamism. First, I give honors to our holy prophet, and all praise is due to Allah. Just a reflection in the camelback on what you said. We got to think of chronologically how things worked in time with us as a people. The significance of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali demonstrating that those of Turkey are the descendants of Hagar. It's simply because before the flood, the lineage was through the patriarch. After the flood, the lineage was more so claimed through the man. But since we were tracing ourselves back to our ancient mothers and fathers, we were to attach ourselves back to their ways in a sense of, we know that in ancient times, the people of Hagar were called the Hagarenes.
That's law.
And the people of Sarah were called the Saracens. Today, they would be called the Moors or the Edomites. But when we go back to the title, Asia, or for some who have gone that road, they know the name. The reason being of the name is to attach ourselves back to our mother and to represent our mother and to demonstrate the possibility to know that we have a deep appreciation for motherhood and sisterhood. I yield.
Islam more. Gratitude for that. And that's so on point. Just as a to kind of add on to the wisdom, when he talks about instruction 7, the Turks are the true descendants of Hagar. As we know, Hagar was the handmaiden of Sarah, who was Abraham's wife, and Hagar was more or less used as a surrogate for Sarah. And it made me think of instruction 27, when you give in brief the line of genealogy through which Jesus came. And he says, some of the great fathers through which Jesus came are Abraham, Boaz by Ruth, right? Going to the brother's point. And Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary, throwing in those ancient divine foremothers, just like the foremother of Hagar was thrown in right here in this instruction. So gratitude, brother, for that. We're going to go to Sister Aliyah. Islam, sister.
Islam.
Islam.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Honors to the Prophet, and all praises due to Allah. I had a question, not necessarily anything to add,
Islam.
but I'm trying to understand with the origin of Asiatic. Maybe you can yield some understanding here. Is it more, from what I'm understanding, is it more of a bloodline connection? When you say Asiatic, because I'm thinking like pre-Pangea, when all of the continents were connected. I mean, were they called different things, or what? I'm just so I can get some understanding of like the ancestral origin of the word Asiatic. I yield.
Islam, sister. Yes, I don't know if you were, well, I guess you weren't here, but I gave my measure, my take on it, was denoting to the fact that when we trace through some of the ancient languages, the word Asia, as I have researched, comes from the Hebrew word Ashaya, right? So Ashaya was meaning the world of action, denoting to the fact that when the world was one, like you said, wasn't broken up, that they associated this plane as to where we descended into and started the actions of the matter, you know. And so when you say the Asiatic, you're denoting to the first man and woman in general, you know, of this plane. So Islam, I yield. If anybody wants to add any wisdom to that, please go ahead. Islam, to the brother, I believe this is brother Shakur Bey. Islam, brother.
Islam, yay. Islam. So I just wanted to add to something. I'm not sure if everyone on the line is familiar with the teaching that the European has tries to document or play off truth, the myth, and play off myth as the truth.
Mm.
So I'm only saying that because of the title of this text that I'm going to read from. And as our prophet has educated us on Asiatic, first I'll demonstrate that when we, as those angels or as those Elohims or as those first man on earth amalgamated with other species or beings that were similar to us and then were cast out of the holy city, yes, the earth was of one massive, right, land mass, and it was referred to as Asia. So that's where the Asiatics come from, because those children were children born in Asia.
Islam.
And yes, melanated. So yes, we amalgamated before the pale-skinned nations came out of us in general. Islam. The pale-skinned nations that we see as Europeans today, because well, I'm not going to go too far into that, but we are the original Islam. I don't want to go too far. But the name of this text that I'm reading from is called Mexico and Peru, Myths and Legends. Okay.
Islam.
The first chapter It's chapter 1. It says, the civilization of Mexico. I'm just going to read the first chapter, but draw for what it says. I'm just going to read the first paragraph, but draw from what it says. Actually, I'll read the first two, this first page. I can get through that. So, the civilizations of the New World. There is now no question. Remember, this is placed inside of a text that is undertitled Myths and Legends, but it is titled Mexico and Peru. The civilizations of the New World. There is now no question as the indigenous origin of the civilizations of Mexico, Central America, and Peru upon few subjects, however, has so much mistaken erudition been lavished. The beginnings of the races who inhabited these regions and the cultures which they severely created have been referred to nearly every civilized or semi-civilized nation of antiquity. Before I go on, antiquity is referencing the first. When you see antiquity, think ancient. I'll begin at that. So antiquity and wild of fascinating theories have been advanced with the intention of showing that civilization, here it comes, that civilization was initiated upon American soil by Asiatic or European influence. These speculations were for the most part put forward by persons who possessed but a merely general acquaintance with the circumstances of American Aboriginal civilization. Aboriginal, though, is a European term. It's a British term. So we refer with indigenous or original in general. American Aboriginal civilization, and who were struck by the superficial resemblances which undoubtedly exist between American and Asiatic peoples, customs and art forms, but which cease to be apparent to the Americanists, who perceives in them only such likenesses as inevitably occur in the work of men situated in similar environments and surrounded by similar social and religious conditions. The Maya of Yucatan may be regarded as the most highly civilized of the peoples who occupied the American continent before the advent of Europeans. And it is usually their culture which we are asked to believe, and its seat of origin in Asia. It is unnecessary to refuse this theory in detail, as that has already been ably accomplished. But it may be remarked that the surest proof of the purely native origin of American, I'm going to have to keep reading, of American civilization is to be found in the unique nature of American art, the undoubted result of countless centuries of isolation. American language, arithmetic, and methods of time reckoning. 2, bear no resemblance to other systems, European or Asiatic, and we may be certain that had a civilizing race entered America from Asia, it would have left its indelible impress upon things so intensely associated with the life of a people, as well as upon the art and architecture of the country. For they are as much the product of culture as is the ability to raise temples. So you see, the European tries to place himself in there in some manner, but he's still telling the truth on where the origin of man was. Islam? I digress.
Islam. That's a powerful reading right there. More. What was the name of that again?
Islam, Mexico and Peru. The undertitle is Myths and Legends.
Mexico and Peru. Myths and Legends. Islam. That's fire. And gratitude for that. It was right in line with the brother, what Brother Ricardo Bey was talking about when he said that he had the film where they said it, because they said the same term in that book that you just said, the Asiatic and the European. And then they were distinguishing in the Asiatic with the American. Very key. Islam, we got another hand up. We have our sister Queen here. Please, Queen, I yield the floor.
Islam,
Islam.
Fortune Bay. That's just an old account, but I'm fortunate.
Oh, okay.
It's good to see y'all again, family. I'd say this to anyone who's asking about the Asiatic connection would be that here in this country, they've got people as corporate, quote unquote, Indians. If you go look at India, which is actually Hindustan, the people there obviously must have borne such a resemblance to the people here for them to misnomer us with the same misnomer. So that's what I'd say there.
Islam, and that's like that kind of wisdom where you just read between the lines and you can see it right in front of you. Islam, gratitude, sister. Okay, brother, Shakur Bey, please.
Islam. I have to read some more for you.
Islam.
So I'm going to skip a paragraph, and then it goes to origin of American man. And an Asiatic origin is, of course, admitted for the Aborigines of America. But it undoubtedly stretched back into that dim territory era when man was little more than beast, and language as yet was not, or at the best, was only half formed. So before I continue to read, we have to remember that when a European is writing, they can only trace themselves back. They've mastered themselves to an extent, right? But when they do that, they have traced themselves back to their first period. Their first period was long after ours. So to refer to the beginning of man being beastly, that is not our origin. That is not how we trace ourselves back. We didn't have to be raised. Our raising was from the physical to the spirit plane, not from the beastly to the higher self. Islam. But we get confused. We get confused because we have accepted their teachings over the multitude of years. And so a lot of our Asiatic brothers and sisters are continuing and perpetuating this beastly behavior. So that's where the confusion comes in, and we may attach to the idea that at one point, we may have been beast, or we may have acted as beast in some sort of fashion, when that's just not the case. We just accepted their teachings. And you know, when you have a thought, that's how you act. Islam. Continuing on. Where was I? I'll read that sentence again. All is well. An Asiatic origin is, of course, admitted for the Aborigines of America, but it undoubtedly stretched back into that dim territory era when man was little more than beast, and language as yet was not, or at the best was only half formed. Later, immigrants there certainly were, but these probably arrived by way of bearing, Behring, straight. That's right here anyway, right? And not by the land bridge connecting Asia and America, by which the first comers found entrance. At a later geological period, the general level of the North American continent was higher than at present, and a broad isthmus connected it with Asia. During this prolonged elevation, vast littoral plains, now submerged, extended continuously from the American to the Asiatic shore, affording an easy route of migration to a type of man from whom both the Mongolian branches may have sprung, but this type, little removed from the animal as it undoubtedly was, carried with it none of the refinements of art or civilization. And if any resemblances occur between the art forms or polite or polity of its equal descendants in Asia and America, they are due the influence of a remote common ancestry, and not to any later influx of Asiatic civilization to American shores. There's a little, it was a little admixture of truth and falsehood, but there was more truth in what I just read right there, because the plains here in North America were definitely higher than the sea level that what it is right now. But at the same time, they just didn't mention Turtle Island and the and Atlantis, you know, in general. But they did mention the easy transport from what is known today as the continent of Africa to what is known today as North, South, and Central America, that we were so close that it was a matter of simply walking over. You know, imagine walking through a marsh from America to Africa. Islam.
Islam. Wow. Powerful. That's powerful, because that clears in a lot of gaps. And just to touch on a couple of things that you had said about the origin, I'll just put it out there like this. You never seen that I've never seen. I'll put it like this. I've never seen the depiction of the chimpanzee go from the chimpanzee to a Moorish male. You never seen that. You never seen it go from chimpanzee to Moorish male. So, you know, we'd be like, that's not our origin. Well, they never are saying that that's your origin. They never even put us as that end result, you know. But you keyed in on another key word that has to deal with this chapter, and the fact that the Asiatic is a brotherhood, a sisterhood. It's a word of association that we can all use when our Moorish brothers and sisters don't want to be necessarily Moorish brothers and sisters, you know. So we can always come back to that term Asiatic, in specific, as it deals with this chapter. And I wanted to kind of just read a short little thing from the dictionary that kind of throws it in our face of what they're talking about when they're talking about the Asiatic. For some reason, and I found this when I was doing research for my book, it was the word Afro. The word Afro, they call it Afra or Afro. And it's from the Latin Afro, right? And they say African, synonymous with American, and Afro or Asiatic. So in the gist, they're saying that Afro is synonymous with American, and synonymous with African, and synonymous with Asiatic, all at the same time. So obviously, who has the Afro? You know, who wears the Afro and is known for the Afro besides for the Asiatic, the so-called black man in the mainstream? Nobody wears Afro like us, you know. And so that very term in itself, that hairstyle, is synonymous with Asiatic. It's synonymous with American. It's synonymous with African. All in the same thing. This is from the Webster's 7th New Collegiate Dictionary, and they go into that. You know, so I always say, if you get a dictionary, the older the better. For real. If you go to your used bookstores and all that, look for me. You know, we look up for more and all these kind of terms, and you'll be surprised at the terms they were using or how they were using them at a certain point in time. And if you can, get them unabridged, because unabridged will give you all the definitions that they have used for time immemorial. But Islam, any more thoughts? I see Sister Aaliyah, your hand is still up. Was that just from the last time you forgot to take it down, or did you have something else to go into here?
My apologies. I don't know why my hand is still up there. I'll have to fix that. No, I'm done.
Oh yeah, I think if you just tap it again, it'll come on. Islam. All right, hey, Brother Paris, Islam. Go ahead, my brother.
Islam. I rise giving praise to Allah, honor to his prophet, Noble Drew Ali, honor to the Harmon, good Marcus Messiah Garvey, honor to the Supreme Grand Sheik, King Umar Bey, honors to the his official staff, each one of you, everything Moorish, well wishes, supporters, and sympathizers. I had a question.
Islam.
And the question is, since our ancestors, our forefathers, etc., and their brethrens came from Asia and the Holy Lands into Egypt, the capital empire and the domain of Africa, etc. Is that why Africa is considered Asia Minor?
Islam. As far as the Eurocentric understanding of calling Africa Asia Minor, I believe that that was the way that the European was associating Africa, in the sense. I don't know if they are associating it as Asia Minor because of our specific lessons. Because when I found out that Africa was known as Asia Minor, it was coming from paradigms of more or less Eurocentric thought. So with that, brother, I'm not sure if they were privy to calling it that based on our lessons, so to say. Islam, does that answer your question?
Islam, it does. Because here in America they got Little Village and Little Italy and Minor. You know what I'm saying? So I was just wanted to make a relation and get an understanding of where that came from. But Islam, that was
Islam. Yeah, I think a lot of these terms are kind of Eurocentric in the sense of how they had to associate certain things. Like the brothers were pointing out that they knew the American to be a Asiatic people. You know what I'm saying? So let's put it like this. There's a book called The Journey of Coronado, and it has a map in it from 1548, and it's called The Journey of Coronado, and it's a map in it that the Europeans used to use when they would talk about this land over here, and they had all the lands mapped out, and so forth and so on, and they had the west of the Americas was denoted as China, and then they had the whole of the Americas, North America, was named to them as India Superior. So they were calling this Big India. So that's just to let you know, like, okay, when they talk about the story of Columbus coming over here and he mistakenly thought he was going to India. No. The Europeans, they denoted this land as India to them because the same people that they did see over there, those Muslims in India or in Hindustan, right, were the same type of people they saw when they came over here. So they were like, "Oh, okay. So this is Big India because this was the big, more secret. This was the lands that we were holding. Let's say them kind of not being able to access like that. Why we used to tell them the Earth is flat, so don't go past, don't go out in the ocean. But really, we didn't want them running into our other birthright, our other holy lands that we were leaving undisturbed, and so on and so forth. So it kind of has those vibrations to me as well. They kind of name it because they talk about how they when they finally start exploring the world a little bit, how it has seemed to them that the Moors were everywhere and owned everything, and a lot of those people didn't like that. Islam, but I yield. Our brother, you got your hand up, please, Sultanate. Islam, brother, your mic is.
Pardon ourselves. Just camelbacking on what the brother Paige Bey questioned on the Asia Minor thing. When we think of Asia Minor, we think of, all right, they speak of Asia itself as just being Asia, And then you see some people saying Africa is Asia Minor. It just questions yourself to say, what is Asia Major? And to think of those perspectives, and also saying European centric, we have to think that the Europeans are always in sight of governance of some form, administration of some form. So we had to understand what was the purpose, what was the reason, what law governed the event for the purpose of such. Now, I'm going to go to a book from 1790 called The Universal History of the Basis of Geography for the Uses of Families in Schools. It states, across the narrow channel, the people of the present day live in a neighborhood are accustomed to pass in their little boats. There is a reason to believe then that many ages since, some of the Asiatic tribes of Tartars wandered to the Bering Straits and crossed over to the Americas. These may have been numerous and consisting of different tribes. A foundation may thus have been laid for peopling of the American continent. But it is also thought that the people of the Southern Asian have reached the central part of America by passing from island to island across the Great Pacific, which they can do, as many of the islanders in the ocean build and manage very beautiful canoes. There is considerable resemblance between the American Indians and some Asiatic tribes. They appear to possess some singular customs known in Asia. Thus, it would seem that Asia, which furnished the first inhabitants of Africa and Europe, also supplied America with the first human beings that trotted shores. So now when we listen to what it said specifically, it said custom. Custom is law. When you go to any other shore before you touch the land, you have to go through custom.
Islam.
So it was a form of tradition, a way of life, an ordinance and administration that we had operating at that time that gave them a semblance to know that these are one people. I yield.
Islam. That's a wonderful reading right there. What book was that again, my brother?
It's titled The Universal History of the Basis of Geography for the Use of Human Families in Schools.
Islam. Okay. To camel back off of that, I have a piece of corresponding evidence. It's from a book called Ancient America by Time Life Books. This came out in 1967. And in the opening chapter, the first paragraph, it talks about the explorers who came right after Columbus. This was in 1502. And I can't remember the name of the exact explorer, but he had journaled that when he came over here, and then they were sailing into the Atlantis Islands, right? That they had came across a canoe, a long canoe. And he said, wow, it was full of women and they were Moorish. And this is 1502. So when he come over here, he's seen a boat full of women. He said, these look just like the Moors back in Europe. these are, huh? Right? So Islam, let's go to our brother, our governor and our Grand National spokesman, Brother Kenneth L. Islam, you have the floor. Islam? Or maybe he left his hand up. Islam, let's go to our brother Sarush. He was the next in line. Islam.
Islam, my bad. I'm here. Can y'all hear me now?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Islam, praise Allah, honor to his prophet. Just had a question. As I'm listening to all the dialogue and hear all the different historical reference pertaining to the usage of the terms Asiatic, my question is, how can we, in 2023, moving into 2024, how can we use this information, this understanding, to help reach our brothers and sisters who may identify as the Asiatic original black man? So that's one question, is how can we utilize this as a tool to help educate our brothers and sisters who don't understand that? And my other question is, why is it that in chapter 45, does it say that all of these are Muslims? and it doesn't say Muslims. So why does it say Muslims, and what's the distinction between the two? Islam, I yield.
Islam. Now with the term Asiatic, somebody just came here. With the term Asiatic, that's the perfect term to really get a lot of our brothers and sisters of the schools of thought, this paradigm, gathered into a unified mind, because the term itself is literally dealing with first peoples. I think that the term Asiatic, like we said, the brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey used it, our prophet used it, is something synonymous with oneness and unity within itself. Because there's one thing, no matter what school of thought, what kind of thing that we're dealing with, we all understand that we were first inhabitants, right? Original inhabitants of this plane. So I think that is a very powerful tool and opportunity for us to use that term, to reinstate it, and I don't know what it is. We're still working on some of our brothers and sisters to get some of those certain type of ways out of them, but y'all experienced it. Sometimes we use the word more, that just that will just kill one of the Asiatics, or one of the ones who are stuck in black thought, from coming over, because when they hear the word more, it automatically puts them into that field of thought for whatever agitations they may have of that word, and the little things they looked up on YouTube or some of those things. And not that we're not going to say that we're Moors, but we're going to be able to utilize that term Asiatic as the liaison, as the term that helps to transition ones from that school of thought and that school of mind into understanding the Moorish. Because a lot of times we got to use that tie, right? It's kind of like using the word blackamoor or something like that. You know, they used to call us blackamoors. And so they'll have to agree, yeah. But then they just dropped the more and started calling us plain black. Oh, okay. You know, so I think that the term Asiatic has that same type of ability to help ones in that frame of mind or in that thought to comfortably, or a little less hassle with it, to cross over into understanding. Now when we're talking about more, we are talking about Asiatics. We're talking about all these things, but we're just giving it its true designation and its political power that we need to have nationality and to move forward in this new era of time. So that's what I would say to that question. And as far as the prophet making sure that we understood that we were Muslims and not Muslims, right? A Muslim is, as we teach many times in many different branches of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Muslim is the will of Allah, right? The Muslim, you know, like we say, the ills and bays for their wills and ways. The Muslim represents the will of Allah. The Muslim was the original term up until 1905 for anybody who was of Islamic thought or had the creed of Islam was considered a Muslim. The term the Muslim really wasn't interjected until about after 1905, 1910, as I see it, as a reconstructionist historian technique, because I know people who have done extensive travels, even over in the so-called Middle East, and to this day, those who are really of that lineage, of that knowledge of Islam, even though in the way that Muhammad the first brought it, the uniting of Islam, they still refer to themselves as Muslims. If y'all know or have been on my Instagram, I have a video on there with a lady that me and my wife, we did an event with last year, and her husband was an avid traveler over there, and she had revealed this to us because I had came in and I was wearing a fez, and she said, "Wow, that's a nice, fez or whatever." She said, "Are you a Muslim?" I said, "What? Hold on, you got to repeat that. You got to like say that into the into the camera. So I got her on camera. I was like, so I'm sitting here, and this lady asked me, "Am I a Muslim?" And she went on to explain, like, yeah, that's what everybody over there who is called, is a Mohammedan, calls themselves a Muslim, and all these kind of things. So when we're dealing with the term Muslim, we're dealing with the true distinction. Muslim is a word that came later, and it's very imperative that we understand that we are Muslim, and the Prophet said Muslim specifically, and for a reason, is denoting to that true, or those followers of the true faith. And if you look up the true faith, is Islamism. I have it in an unabridged dictionary. I looked up the word Islamism. I was like, man, let me look up Islamism. And it literally went on to say, it said the true religion, right? So I was like, wow, I was blown away. It's like the true religion of the Muslim. So, but this unabridged dictionary is from the 1930s, that just back in the day. That's why I say I always get the old dictionaries, they'll reveal the truth. But that's my take on it. I'll yield to the brother Sarush. He had his hand up next, and then we'll get to the brother Ricardo, and then we'll get to the sister Leah again. Islam, I yield. Brother Sarush.
Islam. Just want to reiterate my highest praise to Allah, highest honors to the Prophet, Noble Ali. I had two thoughts. One first, pertaining to the question of Asia Minor, and one thing that struck me, that came to my mind, was I was familiar with the term Asia Major and Minor as how they look on the map, how one is up and one is down. And I thought about how that could pertain to like music. You can compare it to music, like major and minor scales and octaves and things like that. Just like, something just being up and down, not necessarily bigger or smaller, positive or negative, but like just up and down. So that was the one thought on that. And then the second thought that I had pertaining to Brother Kenneth Ill's question about how do we use this to reach, our brothers and sisters. The very first thing that I thought was about the back of our Holy Koran, where it says the fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate and know of their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Koran of Mecca for the teaching and instructing of all Moorish Americans, etc. And then on the back, it says like, know yourself and your Father God Allah, that you may learn to love instead of hate. Every man needs to worship under his own vine and fig tree. And then at the very bottom, it says the uniting of Asia. So that's just what struck me, as a thought of how I would be approaching the conversation, with people about being Asiatic. And I yield.
Islam. And real quick before we get to the other speakers, I just want to add to that wisdom, and we'll just use an analogy, right? If you have a saltine cracker and you break it, all those grains of salt, are they not from the same cracker? Right. So think of when we say the Asiatic, Asia was once what? One, right? And it broke up. And what they call it, the flood of Noah, which was the earthquake, as the prophet has described it, and those lands broke up. So all those saltines are those salts, because ye are the salt of the earth, right? All those grains of salt broke up on different pieces of the cracker, right? We're all Asiatics. And so the uniting of Asia, bringing those Muslims back from all the different lands of which we dispensated and cover are at, And that's why he's going through all the Egyptians, the Hindus, the Asiatic nations of North, South, and Central America, the Colombians, the Turks. He's describing all these Asiatic nations and the uniting of them back through the Holy Koran of Mecca, Islam. But I yield to our brother Ricardo Bey, Islam.
Islam, praise the Lord. Just wanted to camelback many of the points that you made, and to Brother Kennick's point, why is the Prophet saying Muslim? Muslim is referring to, he names out the various different countries, right? He says all these are Muslim. What he's talking about is their divine origin, right? Because what we have to remember is that the dominant religion in those countries is Roman Catholicism. See, so the Prophet is coming to clarify that, these ones, regardless of what they're practicing at this time, their divine origin, they are Muslims. And then he also goes in, why does the Prophet use Muslim? I have many references in books, to your point, where at that time, early 1900s, that was the only word being used. Muslim. Many books say Muslim. And when you look at the religion aspect, it says Islamism. I have many books. It doesn't say Islam. It says Islamism. And this is what the Prophet has given us, right? What is your religion? Islamism. This is what it is what it was. And when you go into those words, they all come from the same root word, right? The trilateral root word, sim, lam, mim, which simply means oneness, complete, wholeness, etc. Right? And then lastly, I want to share that definition because I think you might have actually posted this. I got the screenshot of the actual definition of Islamism from that unabridged dictionary, and it says to be free. Islam. It says to be free. It says safe or devoted to Allah, the true faith according to the Mohammedanism. Islam, are you?
Islam. Gratitude for the wisdom, Brother Ricardo Bey. And just to kind of jump on the back of that with the Muslim, right? Hit the nail on the head when he said the divine origin. Remember, we talked about that fall, chapter 1. We came from those holy lands. We came from that divine state of mind, and we came down, right? Came from Mecca, and in the Garden of Eden. And once the fruit was eaten, right, so to say, we fell into realizing our nakedness and so on and so forth. Remember, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, Muslims are born, right? So born, right? Your divine origin. You're coming from that other side of the veil as a Muslim. That's your mindset. That's your religion. That is your connection to that state of mind, right? Of Allah. The Asiatic, when I think of them, they are a Muslim born, but they are one who may or may not understand that divine connection yet, or is just dealing with that flesh, that principle of just the being, right? Who might not have connected with that divine mind or back to that ancient mind of his foremothers and forefathers, right? So when we go to key 57, who were Adam and Eve? They are the mother and father of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims. So he's putting like there's some kind of distinction there in that sense. But remember, Muslims are born, but you have to follow the first instruction of the Holy Koran, which is know thyself and Allah, right? And then you understand the Muslim mindset. Islam, I yield to the sister. Oh, sister Aliyah. Put the hand down. Sister, did you still want to say what you need to say, or?
It was nothing to say. Grand Sheik, I just wanted to ask if any of the Moors in the chat had any books, because I tried to research, go and look for books on Asiatic and Islamism, and I could find none. So when I heard a fellow Moore speak up earlier saying he has a ton of literature that has both, I've had a hard time finding books that go into the history of both words.
Oh, Islam, sister. Yes, if any Moors have any books or reference or literature, please share them in the chat with the sister. But let's go back to our brother, uh,
Simmons Bay.
Islam. Say it again, my brother.
Brother Simmons Bay.
Brother Simmons Bay, Islam. Forgive me because it's just not on the thing. So
All is truly
Islam.
well. Just to camelback on what you more speaking on. That last book, sister. Again, the title was Universal History of the Basis of Geography for the Uses of Families in Schools. I'm gonna speak on another title, but I just want to camelback on what Kenneth Gill spoke on. The difference between Muslim and Muslim. As the Prophet Noble Drew Ali reveals to us and reminds us, Muslims are born.
Islam.
So that begins one to think, if Muslims are born, what is the difference from a Muslim and a Muslim? One is made,
Islam.
meaning one can be made, meaning he can be unmade.
Mhm.
So those are the converts. Muslims are born in, and this is just what it is. Now, I'll tangent off that, and I'll speak on the book that I'm going to read to you guys. It's titled "The Asiatic Miscellany." Miscellany is spelled Miscellany. The Asiatic Miscellany, consisting of translations, imitations, fugitive pieces, original productions, and abstracts from curious publications. And it is made and published 1787. I'm going to read page 115 from it. It's called The Persian Letter to the Emperor Ming, the Sultan Shah Rukh. Fiends boundless peace. The Most High God, having in the depth of his wisdom and in the perfection of his created Adam, was pleased in succeeded times to make of his fawns prophet and apostles, whom he sent. Excuse me, Morris. You know this old English, so the F's look like S's. So I'm trying to, trying to get it right for you guys. His sons, prophets, and apostles, whom he sent among men to summon them to obey the truth. To some of those prophets also, as to Abraham, Moses, David, and Muhammad, he gave particular books, and he taught each of them a law commanding the people of the time in which they lived to obey that law and to remain in the faith and respectfully. All these apostles of God call upon men to embrace the religion of the unity and the worship of the true God, and forbade the adoration of the sun, moon, and stars of kings and idols. And though each of them had a special distinct dispensation, they were nevertheless all agreed in the doctrine of the unity of the Supreme Being. At length, when the apostleship and prophetic office devolved on our apostle Muhammad Mustafa, on whom be mercy and peace from God, the other systems were abolished, and he became the apostle and prophet of the latter time. It behooves all the world, therefore, lords, kings, and visitors, rich and poor, small and great, to embrace this religion and forsake the systems and persuasions of the past ages. This is the true and the right faith, and this is Islamism. Some years before the present period, Genghis Khan failed forth and sent his sons into different countries and kingdoms. He sent Joy Khan into the parts about Soray, Krim, today Crimea, and the Deutsch Kashak, where some of the kings, his successors, such as Uzbek and Jana Khan and Udis Khan, professed the Muslim faith. and regulated their conduct by the law of Muhammad. Halakala Khan was appointed to preside over the cities in Koranafan and Iraq and the parts adjacent, and some of his sons who succeeded to the government of those countries have admitted the light of Muhammad, faith into the hearts, and became in like manner professors of Islamism. So I just read that to state and to share that those who may speak on where Asiatic comes from. We had people like Genghis Khan, who was revered to others, to not be known that he's Moorish, to not be known that he is one of the emperors of the Asiatic nations. And this is where the semblance, when the Europeans came to America and seen the same administration was operating here, was operating there, and he had to figure out how he was going to navigate through the Americas, let alone how we were navigating amongst each other. So on how we will move forward in knowing some of these things are, I myself, I have been studying international law. I've been building relationships with different indigenous organizations to see what is and what isn't, as far as what has been unfolding as far as the possibility to create some type of trade relations to build infrastructure for businesses for the Moorish nations in relation to other nations. And with the semblance of knowing this is what was already going on with our ancient foremothers and forefathers, we just need to step right back into those shoes, because you are what they were without a doubt or contradiction. We just have to acquiesce it. You know, silence is acquiescence in sometimes. So if you're not acquiescing it, you just aren't. But once we step in the shoes of saying, all right, we're building an Asiatic nation, that is it, and that's all. This is what we demand, and this is what we seek. We sit with certain people who call themselves leaders of certain parties, certain organizations, and we put it in paper. If somebody go out of the bounds of the law, which is the contract, hey, we hold them accountable. But until we start getting together and forming these relations, forming these obligations for these things to come to fruition, we'll just be enjoying good sojourn on the cause. I yield.
Islam, yes. Unifying under this term Asiatic is key, because what it's going to do is it's going to lay the baseline for all who are of a higher mind of thought, interested in knowledge of self, we can agree on. And Moors, our job is to utilize this knowledge that we have to incite this unity and this brotherhood with those other Asiatic, those other Muslims all over the world. And what our key or our last little trick up the sleeve, it's not a trick, but when we get them close to us, what will be understood sooner than later is that we have the political remedy that is actually needed to take us all to the next tier. So as we make those relationships, and we enfold our Asiatic brothers and sisters into networking, as our brother Simmons Bey is talking about, it's going to come to pass where the prophet's prophecy is realized. This is the only sole foundation for the Asiatics, right? For our divine and earthly salvation. But first, let's get them close. Let's network. Let's build. Let's show them that, hey, look, we are, here for you. And as they get closer, and we can finally get them close enough to where we can show them what's in the box. But if we act like, holier than thou and these kind of things, and we don't seek to make those relationships based on that brotherhood, that's that Asiatic covenant, then we won't get them close enough. We will be kind of remiss in our job and our duty to bring in our brothers and sisters so they actually can see, because Moors are hard-headed and stiff-necked. We know this. So knowing ourselves, right? The first instruction, knowing thyself. You're looking at your brother who's like, got his nose turned up because he's, a member of a certain group who may have dissenting views towards what we do. Show him why he needs to come closer, that we agree on certain things, and then we reveal to them the parts that they've been missing. And before you know it, you got you another Moorish American coming to realization that he's a Moorish American. Some of our best Moors are in the church, like the prophet said. So we got to understand all these kind of things, and we got to network and navigate, because you're the high mind, Moor. You're the one who finally has realized who you are truly and how that matters politically and spiritually. Islam, but I'll yield to our brother Paris. Islam, brother.
Islam, I got a question about instruction 3 from the divine origin of the Asiatic nations. The Egyptians, who were the Hamathites, are the Hamathites descendants of Ham?
Islam, yes, Islam. So the Hamites are descendants of Ham. So now listen to this. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so the Hamathites. Now that so the Arabians, those are the seed of Hagar.
Islam.
Okay, who was Hagar?
Islam. Hagar was the handmaiden of Abraham and Sarah. She was used as a surrogate to birth a child in the stead of Sarah, because Sarah was barren up to a certain point, and then eventually her and Abraham were able to have a child. But so the Hagar, and and you look on the front of our Holy Koran, and you see Sultan Abdul Aziz ibn Suad. It says the descendant of Hagar, formerly the head of the holy city of Mecca, talking about our Arabian brothers, so on and so forth, and their lineage and stuff like that. So the prophet, it's no strange happening that he's on one side of the page, and then you have Ibn Suad, which is why you get the name Saudi Arabia, named after him. His family name, that tribe, they organized that area back into functioning form and government. So the first,
not per se.
Islam.
Saudi Arabia was formed under protectorate. It was the House of Suad when the Suad family was in control.
Islam. Thank you, Moore. Thank you for the correction. Now, it's no strange happening that our prophet is on one side as the descendant of Sarah, right? And then on the other side is Ibn Saud is the descendant of Hagar, right? And we know that Sarah was Abraham's, first wife. So something to key in on. And also, I wanted to touch on what our brother was saying here with the Hamites, the Hamites, right? He said, are the Egyptians descendants of Ham? Yeah, Egyptians are the descendants of Ham, but it's a funny thing that when you look at chapter 47, right? Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa from the land of Canaan, and his father Ham and his family were second, right? So as we are understanding when we read this, the dominion of Cush, when we go to instruction 4, is northeast and southeast Africa. And northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. Prophet told us we are the northwest, southwestern shores, right? So Ham came to what we now call the Americas, and it says those Egyptians were Hamites. So when we get back into all that talk and that understanding that the first Egypt, or the real Egypt, so to say, was in America, now it starts to make a little more sense. But Islam, I'll yield the floor to our brother Simmons Bey. Yeah, Islam.
I wanted to ask you, what do you know about the life of Sultan Abdul Aziz Ibn Saud?
Yeah.
Also, just to hit
Islam.
on it before I lose thought, it's a difference between the Hamites and the Hamatites.
Islam.
It's just a generational thing. You got sons of Ham, then you got the sons of Ham. But yeah, I definitely want to speak on what do you know about Saud?
Yeah. I know about Saud, like personally. He was a big dude. He's like 6'6". He had a bunch of sons, but his whole thing is the reorganization of the tribes. And so, like you were saying, when we say Saudi, we're talking about that house or those particular Muslims. And his reorganization efforts, he was pretty much like the head chief, the general, who organized what we call the Middle East back into a functioning, like you said, protectorate or a state, so to say. And
why was he going through reorganization?
What'd you say?
Why was he going through reorganization?
Why was he going through reorganization?
Yeah.
Just as far as I know, the tribes were at odds ends with each other.
Well, from the history of Sultan Abdul Aziz Ibn Saud, he took throne at a very young age as a teenager, after his father had changed the form, and his brother, I forget his name specifically, but his brother didn't like that because he was older than him, and he felt that he was more of a military representation of the House of Saud, and he felt that Sultan Ibn Saud had a too much of a close relationship with the French government at that time. And what his brother did, he caused a war amongst popular majority, just how most people do with different coups. And through the coup, he attempted to alliance himself with France, strangely, and that's when he ended up getting killed, and that's when the reorganization plan begun. That was after Sultan Ibn Abdul Aziz was exiled and decommissioned by his own brother. That's actually what caused the actual reorganization, and I think myself that's the reason what Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave us the semblance of, to remind us what he went through so we could understand the possibilities of man for ourselves. Although he was deposed, it didn't state that he didn't have royal prerogative to reorganize the house. He still had the same power as if he was on the throne. It's just everything was controlled through a whole nother government. Now, when we look at our position, it's the same semblance. It's the same semblance. He had the House of Suad operating completely separate from the contract of Saudi Arabia when he was in his flesh. That wasn't a complete reorganization plan as far as we all agreed to say we are the United States of America before Noble Drew Ali brought to us what he did.
Mm-hmm.
prior to Noble Drew Ali, a lot of Asiatics may not have agreed to such. So in the simplest of what happened with Sultan Ibn Abdul Aziz, through his brother deposing him and exiling him in his return to demonstrate nationhood and family of order back to the people of Morocco, that's what truly is the demonstration of the sense what Noble Drew Ali brought to us. Now, what's going on in Saudi Arabia today, we may not agree with, but I yield the floor. I just wanted to give my reflect, because I know it's a lot of different things on Sultan Abdul Aziz Ibn Saud that if we reflect on as a people in our circumstances, we could really see the possibilities of where we're going, not just as a Moorish people, but as a representation of a nation of people. I yield.
Islam. Thank you, brother, for the for some the gap fillers and some of the your measures on the Ibn Suad. And yes, I think that's exactly what kind of narratives I took from it when I read his story and I read what he did. I was like, okay, this is us. This is what we need to be doing. We need to be reorganizing ourselves and getting ourselves together properly, you know. And I definitely felt like the prophet was referencing that and utilizing Ibn Su'ad to you know incite that in us. So divine interpretation, my brother, Islam. Brother Paris, you have the floor.
Well, I have another question. If the Turks are the true descendants of Hagar, then if I'm not mistaken, and I'll add this to my question, Saud, didn't he go to war with the Ottoman Empire? And if I'm not mistaken, why did that happen? If they were descendants of the same ancestor.
Oh,
I speak
Islam.
on that.
More. Go ahead, more.
If you don't know, the Ottoman Empire had an alliance with the Christian nations. At one point in time, it was friendly for us to trade and do business with the Christian nations. But as far as treaty and administrative contracting, that was prohibited. Because once you do contract with them, you give them a right to operate in your territory.
Mm.
Because it's a semblance of committee, meaning what you allow, I allow. And so at that time, that was not allowed. So they went to war with the Ottomans on a semblance. They weren't really representing the true faith and understanding that what's meant for home is meant for home. What's meant for business, it ain't got nothing to do with home. And that's when the problem started inside the house, and our people started really indulging in foreign nation currency. I yield the flow.
Islam. Islam. Gratitude, brother, for that explanation. Some wonderful history tied to those stories. Please look into those if you haven't. And just to kind of touch on what the brother said is, like, you know, why were they fighting? You know, it's back to what the brother said. You know, and what we should understand, just because we, you know, our kinfolk, don't mean it's not going to be a thing if some people start acting out of order. You know, and that has shown, you know, from the schism of the temple and so forth and so on. There's going to be ones who want to do it Allah's way, and there's going to be ones who want to do it, you know, their way, and that's just always been the dichotomy, you know. Islam, brother Paris, go ahead. You have the floor.
I have one more question. Did Sultan Abdul Aziz bin Saud Didn't he do business with Britain? If I'm not mistaken, and if he did, what made that okay?
He did
I guess
business with him. He didn't make a treaty with him.
Islam.
Islam. You can also look up, yeah, he did a little business with him. I think it was a meeting between him, some people, British of the British influence, and Haile Selassie, if I'm not mistaken. They all was sitting down at a table. Matter of fact, I seen a video of it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, they traded spice with Britain heavily. That was one of the greatest trades at that time, from the Northwestern territories, and also tobacco. So as you can imagine, the business trade in that industry at that time, people were smoking, and that was when it first started. You know what I mean? That was when it first became an epidemic. So as far as business, it was definitely advantageous for him to keep those relationships close. But when we start thinking treaty relationships, saying, I want you to protect this, I want you to give me rights to protect that, that starts giving others the entitlement for encroachment. And
Interest. Yeah.
some people are too courageous. I just say some people are opportunists, and we were dealing with people who are just simply that. I'll yield.
Islam. Gratitude. Oh, okay. Took the hand down. Islam. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. There's one more thing, because that time is coming up upon us. And there's one more instruction that I want to key in on, and I kind of want to just emphasize, right? And it's something that I always try to make sure that I emphasize, that who we are, and it's kind of in a two tier. So instruction 2 says the key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. The Moorish. Islam, brother. Brothers, spokesman, were you trying to say something? Okay, I thought it picked up on your thing.
No, sir. No, it's all you, Sheik.
Islam. All right. It says the Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. The Moorish, who were, that's the past tense. Now let's go to instruction 5, who those Moorish are, right? It says the Asiatic nations and countries in North, South, and Central America. It's going through all the Moorish, right? And then it does something very specific here that I want to point out that Prophet did. He says the Moorish Americans and Mexicans in North America, Brazilians, Argentinians, and Chileans. The reason I emphasize that is because, yes, Moorish Americans, you are a specific people. You are a specific nation of the Asiatic nation. Many of us understand that, but I'm emphasizing that so that we can see it like this culmination of all those different things, all those different nations of the Asiatic nation who we are supposed to be in brotherhood with. But we are a specific thing because we were those ancient Moabites. When we went through the things that we went through, the times of slavery, coming from being black. Black, according to science, means death. See, we are the specific line, that great genealogy that we share, but we have done the great transformation, Moors. Remember, one of the key things about our brother man Jesus is that he was able to conquer death. This is the whole, the main mystique of Jesus. He conquered death on the cross, 3 days and in the tomb, and then came out. So think about that. Black, according to science, means death. We descended into death, and we did what our brother man Jesus did, and we rose back into full life, back into the state of mind of our ancient foremothers and forefathers, right? And so we were those ancient Moabites, but now we are those Moorish Americans because we went through death. And so we are specific on this list of nations, right? The Egyptians and the Japanese and the Chinese and the Hindus and right? When he gets to those Asiatic nations in North, South, and Central America, the Moorish Americans, right? We love our Mexican brothers and stuff. And they're Asiatics, and we gotta, build with them. But I've been to Mexico, and I'm gonna say there was a Mexican who was light, and then there was a Mexican who looked like me. So I'm looking like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? He looked like me. He had hair like me. You know what I mean? So we got to keep these things in mind in the sense that if you travel or if you've been around, there's a version of you and me in each one of these countries as well. The Asiatic version of whatever they're putting on the screen is not always this specific character that is the Asiatic in that country, because he's going to more than likely look like me or you, right? So that Moorish American is a very specific people who went through a whole mind warp, came out of death, and that's why it has to be us who leads the charge in this new era of time, because we did the Jesus hat trick. We did the Jesus transition, literally on paper and in the physical, to where we said, whoa, I am not dead, I'm alive. I am really a thing, really a thing of the Most High God, Allah. I'm really a spirit out here who has realized that I am life eternal, like the Christ. You dig what I'm saying? So, as we honor our other brothers and sisters from the other Asiatic nations, remember, Moors, why you must take the charges, because you're the one who's risen from death and has trampled on death. Unlike some of the others of the Asiatic nation who kind of had their nationality, they understood, who they are. They never had to get put into that caste. They might got treated bad because they're dark, but we were the ones who came through death. And so, yes, take pride in being the Moorish American, because you are the pure and clean nation of the world. So Islam. With that, I think unless anybody has any closing thoughts, I'll leave the floor open for any closing thoughts, remarks, or any measures that anybody wants to share before I ask our brother Sharushel to close the meeting. Islam, I yield.
Islam, if you
Islam.
more are free, December 23rd, I'll be doing an open discussion on the importance of nationality, the understanding of statehood recognition, and economic security. So if you're free, December 23rd, mark your calendar. Reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whichever, and I'll definitely send that information to you guys. Islam, I yield the flow.
Islam, brother, I'll be there. You already sent me the
I already know, Mobite.
the link. Yeah, Islam, more. All right, Islam. But yeah, peace and love, Moors. I hope you have enjoyed tonight's proceedings. Islam. Go ahead, my brother.
Islam,
Brother
praise
King,
Allah.
Islam.
Islam, Moorish, praise Allah, honor to his prophet. I just wanted to just give honors to you and to all the participants today. I think it's been a very informative class tonight. There's a lot of historical reference was shared regarding the usage of the terms Asiatics. Really confirmed that it is not a new term. It is the ancient name of the original man. And I also think that if we reflect on all the different measures, we see why we have to really be unified as the Asiatic nation, and more importantly, as Moorish Americans, because we're the ones charged with going out and teaching and disseminating this information to the world. So that's my takeaway. And as I was listening earlier and just kind of hearing a lot, that would be my challenge to everyone, is that, hey, moving forward, let's not have debates and arguments with at least Moorish Americans. Let's at least
we demonstrate that unity, because if we're going to unify the rest of the world, we have to exemplify that through our actions. And tonight was a very informative call. It was some great measures, great books that were referenced. And if you can, Grand Sheik, just prepare us for next week's chapter before you close out. And Brother Aston Simmons Bey, I'm gonna get in your line, Mo, because we need you to lead one of these Koran study classes too. So, but
Islamism.
Islam Moors, but I yield. Honestly, you, Grand Sheik, did a wonderful job, sir. Peace and love.
Islam more is an honor. Next week we'll be going over chapter 46, right? You go the successive chapter, right? The beginning of Christianity.
Point of order. No, sir. We're actually going backwards.
We're
going
backwards. Yeah,
yes, sir.
right.
Tracing ourselves back to the ages.
Islam. Okay. Well, yeah. Shoot. Then that's definitely let's get into an instruction, right? The holy instructions from the prophet. Misery. It's something that we say, I say that like Campbell's soup. Misery. Something we can't seem to get enough of. I don't know why we like the taste of it. I don't know why we like to spice it up and cook it up and have that as our meal all too often. But please reflect. Have a measure, have a thought. Get into these instructions over misery, and try not to be miserable. I think that would be the takeaway just by looking at the title. Holy instructions from the prophet. Misery. Yeah, we gotta adjust our mind around this thing that we love to for some reason taste so much. Misery loves company, and have other people with us in this, and understand that is a faction of the own self. And we're trying to rise up. We're going higher. So Islam, chapter, like we said, chapter on misery, chapter 44. Please study, review, and be ready for next week. Honors to you all. I will plug this real quick before we get out of here and close out. We're doing charity events online. Please check them out. We have a Moorish charity called Mercy Charities. We're running a lot of things and initiatives through them, and we're doing it in an effort to bring awareness to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the Moorish Science Temple of Americas, of course, and get ready for the Prophet's birthday, the Moorish Christmas. So we know that some of you may know that we're doing a fast starting December the 8th. It's going to be like a Ramadan fast, no eating during the sunlight hours. And we're going to do that from the 8th to the 8th, right? The Prophet's birthday. We're doing a lot of these fundraisers so that we can help get these temples out here some banners, some different types of stationery, calling cards, and all manners of things to help bolster up more science temples of America all throughout the nation, all throughout the country. Honors to every temple out there that's doing uplifting works. So yes, please go on our Instagram. It's More Science. Our Instagram is More Science Temple of America 27. But we will be working with all manner of sorts of temples all over the nation to help get them some things and put something in the pot in honor of the Prophet for his blessed birthday. And remember our Supreme Grand Sheik in your prayers and those things before you lay down and whatnot. So Islam, honors to you all. Now I will yield the floor to Brother Sarush if he may do the honors of closing us out. Islam.
Prophet warns all Muslims to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish Science of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me in the movement, now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim I was a joke. I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so that they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present. So I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And I'll yield to the Grand Sheik to close us in prayer.
Islam. Islam. All right, Muslims, please face the east. Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, Father of the universe.
the Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protectress,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation,
and my salvation,
by night
by night
and by day.
and by day,
Through his holy prophet,
through our holy prophet,
Noble Drew Ali.
Noble Drew Ali.
Amen.
Islam.
Islam Moors, gratitude for coming out, please. If you know of any temple that you could donate to, I know temple number 14 will be a great one to donate to if you're here in this meeting tonight. I'm sure that our brother Grand Sheik, brother Reginald Timms L, could get you situated and the such. But much love and appreciation to you all. Have a wonderful night. Praise Allah. Islam.
Islam, praise Allah, peace and love.
Peace.
Islam, peace and love.
Peace and love.
Islam, peace.
Islam, peace and love, Morris.
Peace, brother.